Welcome back, Star students, to the Astro Study Room. I'm Jordan, a university librarian by day and a dedicated astrology student by night. Our goal for this podcast, as always, is to feel like a group of students of all levels gathering to explore and reflect and connect with the cosmos. No matter where you are in your spiritual or astrology journey, learning is a forever game, growth is cyclical, curiosity is sacred, and we are so happy you're here to wander the universe with us. These are all Ember's lines, and I feel so strange saying these without her. But as she would always say, if you would like, grab your notes and your pens and bring yourself and an open mind to our conversation today. Whether you identify as an astrologer, a witch, a wizard, a mystic, a spiritual seeker, or simply a curious human, you belong here. This is a study room for all of it and for everyone. Every other Tuesday, we will be exploring different astrology and spiritual topics, sometimes teaching, sometimes reflecting, sometimes interviewing, and sometimes just chatting and wondering out loud together. If you're into it, we would love for you to subscribe, leave a review, and just know you can always come hang out with us in the study room. You can also follow us at the Astro Study Room on Instagram and TikTok, and as a reminder, the Astro Study Room is live on YouTube, so if you're more of a visual person, you can check us out over there. In the show notes, you will find ways to connect with me and Ember. I offer astrology consultations, and Ember runs Ember Fae Magic. Go sign up for her newsletter, take her free quiz on discovering your sensual shadow archetype, and see what else she is offering. Today, I'm going to be interviewing one of our coven sisters, Katherine Eady, who was raised Fundie Christian, and we connected very quickly on this conversation and this topic, and so I'm excited to get to publicize a lot of this conversation. So buckle up, Star students. Class is officially out, and the study room is in session. How are you today?
I'm good. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, so for everyone who doesn't know, which I already said this in the intro, you are a coven sister of me and Ember. So we've known you for a little bit now. And to introduce some of your background, you were raised in a Christian fundamentalist family, right?
Yes, I was.
And before we get into this hot conversation that I'm very excited about, a tradition we have started is with all of our guests, we ask you if you would like to share your big three in your chart, or if there's anything else in your chart you want to talk about.
Oh, sure. So I am a Leo sun, Leo moon, Sagittarius rising. So I am a lot of fire energy.
And what's your experience or knowledge with astrology?
Very limited, pretty much what I have learned from you and Ember.
With what you do know, how do you resonate with Sagittarius and Leo?
I feel strongly that those energies are within me and they have been stifled by my environment so much. And I feel like I'm just starting to actually feel the way that they naturally present in my personality and in my life. So it's a really interesting journey with astrology.
And to put a little bit more context into you and your chart, how old are you?
I'm 29 right now.
So you are going through your Saturn return. You're coming up towards the climax, actually. Let me see where Saturn is right now, because you might be at your climax. No, that's not what I wanted. Cool. Saturn is... Oh, you passed the climax. Okay.
I think I felt that too.
Good.
Yeah. I think it felt like things settled in my life a little bit.
Yeah, so you are... This is... The Saturn return is a point where astrologically this is like your initiation into actual adulthood. And so it makes sense that you're kind of at the beginning of this transformation, of this new cycle. You're right. You're soon going to be starting your second cycle with Saturn. Mm-hmm. So tell us whatever you want to about how you were raised. What is your family like? How many siblings do you have? All the juicy stuff.
Oh, wow. Okay. So, of course, as you said, I was raised fundamentalist Christian. More specifically, like the closest denomination that would align with the teachings that I was raised with would be like fundamentalist Baptist Christian. I was raised in a smaller family than is average, I would say, among fundamentalist Christians. I only have a couple of siblings, but that was more because my family became more conservative as we progressed, as we got older.
As we didn't progress.
Yeah, that was true. As we did not progress, as we regressed. My parents say now that they wish they would have had a lot more kids because of the whole quiverful thing and, children are a blessing from the
Well, for
Lord.
anyone who doesn't know, what does quiverful mean?
So, quiverful is this idea that you allow God to determine how many children your family has. So, you don't use birth control of any kind, you don't do any kind of family planning, and in some more extreme cases, you don't even necessarily try for kids. You're just kind of existing, and if you get pregnant, you're gonna have a baby, and that's it.
Wild. You and I connected pretty quickly because I have an obsession with the Duggars,
Mhm.
and your experience is very cult adjacent, as I like to say. Did your family know about the Duggars?
We did. I would say I was more aware of them probably than anybody else in my family.
I don't
I
think I
am
knew
the
that.
youngest. Yeah, I'm the youngest sibling by quite a few years, and so my older siblings were out of the house pretty much by the time I was like 8. My experience was very similar to an only child in a lot of ways because I was so young when they moved out. And my parents were not, well, they were anti-TV for one thing. So, like, we didn't have a television where we could watch, and they were very kind of anti-internet in a lot of ways too. So, I didn't really have access to the internet until high school age when I started doing some of my homeschool courses online. And so I had to have a computer. And so I kind of started becoming aware of things in the outside world a little bit.
Hmm.
And that was kind of when I discovered the Duggars, because I was a young Christian kid looking for role models to look up to and, looking for my own version of pop culture.
So you really liked the Duggars at the time?
I did, yeah.
I did too. I mean, I didn't know them too well, but I was like my mom was really into them, and so I would watch them because they were on, and they definitely like, and there's a documentary about it now, but they definitely like put up this front of being so perfect and happy, and it makes you want what they have because they look so rich, happy, successful, clean, happy, bright. But I just thought they were fascinating, and then everything came out with Josh Duggar. The first thing in 2015 when he was caught cheating and we learned that he had molested his sisters when they were kids and a babysitter. And that's when I would like had a deep dive into the Duggars of like I was just interested in the psychology of this. And so it like I guess I have more questions about how you were raised, but first I want to ask too. You mentioned you have siblings who are a bit older than you. What was the dynamic like with your sisters? Do you only have sisters?
Yes.
Okay, what was the dynamic like with your sisters?
Yeah, so with them being so much older than me, when I was really little, it was almost more like they were second parents to me. It was kind of the stereotypical Christian, but it also happens in non-Christian families too, but the parentification where they were responsible for me in a lot of ways.
Mm.
And so it was almost more like I didn't make the connection in my little kid brain that they were my sisters until I was like 6 or 7. Like the
Mm.
relationship was just so different than a typical sibling because they were so much older and took care of me so much. So it was definitely more like a second parent. But then in the broader family context, I saw my sisters go through a lot of conflict with my parents. My parents were kind of becoming more conservative as my sisters got into their teen years. And so things that I consider now to be perfectly normal, average teenage development behavior was considered very rebellious and anti-Christian by my parents. So there was a lot of conflict between my older sisters and my parents. And I think that resulted in me going the opposite direction and trying to be like the goody two shoes, the following all the rules, the never causing any issues with my parents because I didn't want to face the same kind of conflict that my older sisters did.
Yeah. So what was your spirituality like, let's say when you were like 13, 14, 15?
That was about the age that I was really starting to like make my parents' faith my own and going from just this general, oh, I'm a Christian, I believe in God, I believe in Jesus, to this is now a very personal faith. I'm, communing with the Lord every day, being convicted about things that I'm doing wrong.
Oh, like
Uh,
what?
like even when I was really little, my dad certainly would have preferred that my mom and I wore skirts all the time. We didn't wear them all the time, but about the time that I would say 13 or 14, I was really convicted about wearing pants. And so I
Mm.
quit wearing pants completely. I wore skirts all the time, even when swimming and working out.
I understand this idea in Christianity of like being convicted doesn't, or correct me if I'm wrong, but doesn't necessarily mean that, I don't know if this is just Fundie language, doesn't necessarily mean that you think everyone has to do it or they'll go to hell, but it's more of you personally have been convicted with, I need to do this. Is that right, what I'm saying?
Yes, it's a very nuanced topic because I think if you really question people about it, they would probably have to say, like, yeah, you can be personally convicted about something that other people don't necessarily have to abide by, but also just the judgmental nature of the world that I grew up in.
Yeah.
Sometimes it leads to judging other people for not living the same way that you're living.
That's where I was going with it, was like, how did you then see other people, other women who wore pants? Were you
Oh, they were very worldly.
worldly? They were very worldly. Tell me what worldly means in this context.
It means that you are basically more caught up in the things of the world than you are the things of God. So,
Uh-huh.
like, maybe you're still a Christian, but you're not really walking with the Lord like you're supposed to.
Now, something I don't know if like listeners are gonna find this as funny as we do, but something you and I have talked about is like what a conversation would have looked like with you and I at the age of like 15. So, what do you think would have happened if we had talked? And let's just say, so at 15, I wasn't spiritual anymore at this point, but I had been. But I was very, very progressive, very leftist. So, how would a conversation have gone between us at 15?
Um, I was very shy at that age. So I think probably I would have just been so terrified that I would have like run away. But if for some reason we found ourselves in a situation where we were talking, I definitely would have been trying to convince you that my way was right and that you needed to get saved.
We had this great conversation one time. We were talking about evangelizing, and I was asking you a lot of questions about how that works, and like, because you told me you had like a class or like it was like part of your high school curriculum to
Yeah.
learn how to evangelize, and you had said you probably would have been too scared and shy to try to evangelize me, but you would have spent the next 3 years like cursing yourself for not doing
Yes.
it.
I would have felt very guilty.
Oh no! So how like I don't know how to say this question, but like how much of your time and I guess energy, how much of your energy went into fear, shame, guilt,
A
and all
lot of
that?
it. A
Yeah.
lot of it. Yeah. Like anytime anything went wrong in my family, in my community, in my church, I always felt like I didn't pray about it enough, or this is the Lord's punishment because I'm not, living the way that he wants me to live or something. Like it was a lot of shame and guilt and carrying the weight of the world on my shoulders in a lot of ways
Mhm.
at a really young age.
Was that something like is it taught to take that on individually or were there times at all where you'd be like this is like my family's fault including me or was it always like did you always feel like it's me or is it because as a I don't know, is it because as a Christian you are supposed to be the one to save the world or what?
It's not directly taught, like there's not, I never sat in a Sunday school class and my teacher said,
Your fault.
this happens, it's your fault.
Yeah.
Like it's not that direct.
Right.
It's more of a mindset that evolved over the years just because of other teachings. Like, you're taught that prayer changes things. And so if you're if you're praying about it, it's going to change, right? Something's going to
Mhm.
happen. And also the prayer of a righteous man is what changes things. And so if your prayers are not changing things, it means you're not righteous. And it's just like this cascade effect of all these different teachings that add up to it's all my fault.
So then what were the good parts and the best parts about being Christian? Being this spiritual?
Two things come to mind when I think about the good things. And one of those is the community, because it is very much like, I mean, it's kind of like now if I saw a witch out in the wild, I would be so excited and like want to talk about it. If you ran across somebody out in your everyday life that was a Christian, it was very exciting and like you have something to talk about and connect over. And then the smaller community of your church and people kind of taking care of each other. And, they would always do like the meal trains when somebody was sick or if they had a baby or something like that and providing food for the family. So there was a lot of sense of community.
Mm-hmm.
And the other thing that comes to mind is the sense of peace that I had. Even though there was all this shame and guilt around it, there was a sense of peace that we had it all figured out. We had the
Mm-hmm.
answers that everybody else was searching for. And that brought a sense of certainty about the world that I don't think I'll ever feel again because I know now how much I don't know.
Yeah.
And I just don't think that I'll ever be at a point where, oh, I have it all figured out. And I think that's a good thing. I think it makes me a better person and a more empathetic person, a more open-minded person. But at the time, it was very comforting to feel like we know it all. We know we know where we came from. We know where we're going when we die. And those are kind of the two big questions that everybody's always asking.
Something else that we've talked about too, where I grew up, which is in West Virginia in the US, I had the assumption that everyone was Christian. That was definitely my default. Unless I asked you, I just assumed you were Christian. But I also know through you and through the Duggars that I guess specifically Fundie Christians maybe talk about being the oppressed people. Did you not feel like everyone was Christian? Or were you just more Christian and that was the right Christian?
I definitely did not think that everyone was Christian. I had a very narrow definition, an idea in my mind of what made someone a Christian.
Oh, what was that? What made someone
So,
Christian?
well, there was this set of like beliefs that you had to hold about like God creating the universe and man, sinned in the Garden of Eden, and that caused us to be in rebellion against God. And then God had to send his son Jesus to die on the cross, and we have to believe in him and, repent of our sins and all that. There's all like the theological stuff, but also with the specific flavor of Christianity I was raised in, there was a lot of lifestyle stuff. Like if you drink and cuss, you're definitely not a Christian, even if you say you believe in God and believe in Jesus. If you, watch certain movies and listen to certain music, you're obviously not a Christian. And there was a lot of more external things that could make someone not a Christian, regardless of what they said they believed.
I'm sure, and these are the questions that I'm sure gets a lot of people to question their faith and everything. But a lot of that stuff, that lifestyle stuff, is not in the Bible, right?
Right.
So how? Maybe as a kid you probably just didn't question it as much, but like, how did you or anyone else rectify these rules that were not in the Bible?
A lot of it is kind of justifiable when you pull certain things out of context in the Bible. And I've heard people say before, like, you can use the Bible to justify anything. And in a lot of ways, that's true because like it's a big book and it says a lot of things.
There's a lot of murder. I remember
And
that.
so, yeah. So you can find a verse to support a lot of different beliefs and ways of life. And that was honestly what was a big catalyst for my deconstruction was when I started looking into why I wasn't even looking into why I was a Christian. I was looking into why I was the specific kind of Christian that I was and why I wasn't, Church of Christ or Catholic or Methodist or any of these other brands. And they all said the same thing. They all said our beliefs come from the Bible. Our beliefs can be traced all the way back to Jesus. Our beliefs are supported by these verses.
Mm-hmm.
And that level of certainty among so many different groups that believe such different things really led to me feeling like nobody really had it figured out at all.
So how old were you at that point?
When I got to that point, I was in my early 20s, maybe like 22, 23, something like that.
And what is going on in your life at this point?
That was pretty shortly after I had gone through a failed courtship and
Courtship. I love it.
and had gone through a really extended period of depression and anxiety and panic attacks,
Hmm.
kind of related to that, but also some other little things that were going on in my life at the time. And there is a couple of years in my early 20s that I have very few memories because I was going through so much just
Yeah.
mental health stuff. And around the age of 22, 23 is really when I started coming out of it and becoming more engaged with the world again. And so that's when I kind of started really questioning things and researching a lot.
So I have more questions about all of that. Can you define what a courtship is and what did a courtship look like for you?
Yeah, so courtship, kind of the most basic definition that I was taught growing up was that it was dating with a purpose. So like
So
you're
Duggars.
so you're dating someone as far as like getting to know them and, talking to them, but it's with the purpose of marriage in mind. It's never about having a good time. It's never about going out on dates. It's always about kind of this checklist of things that this person has to fulfill in order to be like a godly spouse. And if they meet all of those and you kind of get along personality wise, then they're probably the one God has for you. And so it was a very intentional and very high pressure kind of relationship.
High pressure, interesting. How did you two meet?
We actually met through my parents' business. He worked for them for a period of time, and that was how I met him.
Were you excited to be courting?
Oh, very.
You're like 19, 20 at this
I was
point?
I was 19 when the relationship started, and I felt like I was an old maid. Like I was never gonna
That's what I
find.
was thinking. I was like, because at this point in a Christian woman's life, you have been raised that you will graduate and there should be an engagement ring. So yeah, did you graduate and you were like, time to get married and have some kids?
Absolutely. Yeah. There was one experience I remember when I was still 18. I hadn't even turned 19 yet. And I was literally so desperate to find a husband because I thought that was my only purpose in life that I like
No,
cried myself to sleep because I was
no.
like I don't know what I'm doing wrong,
Oh
Lord. I don't
my
know why
god.
you haven't brought me my husband.
I always like I know that you and I have this relationship where like we've talked about it, it's fine. I always feel so bad like laughing at all of this. It's just so wild to me. Like our lives were just so different. And we didn't grow up like we're on the same side of the US. Like we didn't grow up that far from each other, but just like it is I mean you and I are of different cultures it feels like.
Oh yeah.
It's wild. I was like, I mean, 17, 18, I was in bed like, I can't wait to go to college and one day I'm going to get my doctorate and I may never get married. Who cares? I'm my own woman. That's so wild. How long was your courtship?
It was a little under a year, I think like 10 months or so, but we had definitely already talked about like wedding dates.
So was there an engagement or no?
No, not officially.
And so
We were,
that's a long time for a courtship with no engagement, right?
yeah, and the main reason that it was that long, honestly, was because my parents started having issues with him, even though they had like approved the courtship at the beginning, they started having some issues with him, and
But
so
daddy, I love him.
exactly.
Oh my gosh. Were you all like, this is the man God has for me. I know it.
Yes.
Okay. All right.
At
So,
that time, of course, I had really developed feelings and like an attachment
yeah.
to this guy. So,
Absolutely.
yeah.
So, what was this guy like? Was he like a perfect Christian? What was your relationship like while you were courting?
He was definitely a Christian. He actually was a preacher, not full time as like his career, but he would preach kind of on the side, I guess. He was a lot older than me,
Mhm.
to a degree that now, like, I'm now the age that he was when we were courting.
Wild. That
And
is wild.
yeah, looking at it now from this perspective, I'm like, that's a little creepy because when I look at 19-year-olds now, I'm like, they
That's a
are
child.
Yes, like you're barely out of high school. You know nothing about life.
And to be honest, you truly knew nothing. I mean, no
Yeah,
19-year-old
yeah.
does, but like you were especially
But
sheltered.
to an extreme degree, more than your average, high
Right.
school graduate. Like I was so sheltered, I knew nothing about how the real world worked. And so it's a
Mhm.
little weird to me looking at it now. Honestly, in some ways, I give him some credit for opening my mind to some of the negative things that I was brought up with.
Mhm.
Um,
Was he Fundie?
it's
I mean, he
just
was courting, so I guess.
he was, but not quite as extreme as my parents. Like
Okay.
he would
So
go
this
to a
is like Ginger and Jeremy a little bit.
yeah, yeah. So like he would do things like go to a movie theater and he would, go to
Theater. He'd go down to the movie theater. I love it.
yeah. And he played video games and he had a TV in his
Video
house and
game.
things like that. So like yes, he was very extremely conservative Christian.
Did he
But
have his
just
own place?
he at the time was living with his grandparents.
Okay.
They were kind of getting older and in some ways he was kind of caretaking for them a little bit.
Mhm.
Um, so he didn't have completely his own place, which was that was the only reason that we were ever able to spend time together away from my parents is because his grandparents were there.
Mhm. Yeah, so you never spent time alone. Were you allowed to like talk on the phone alone?
We weren't big phone talkers, but we did text.
Okay.
I was always paranoid that my parents were gonna like read our text messages.
I was about to say, did they?
Not as far as I know, but that was always in the back of my mind that they were gonna like confiscate my phone and read all of our conversations.
Did you don't have to tell me what was in it, but like did you even talk about anything that was like incriminating?
Sometimes we would. I would always go back and delete the messages after. By this time, I was becoming a little bit sneaky and rebellious.
Okay. So at this point, you're an adult, you're working towards marriage. What are your expectations of marriage? What do you know about marriage? What don't you know that now you know? For anyone who doesn't know, you are married now.
To
What
someone
didn't you
different,
know?
by the way.
What?
To someone different,
Yeah, another man.
obviously. I would say I was very naive when it came to marriage and relationships. I it's hard to put myself back in that place because there was so much that I didn't know. And I feel like I've been so overwhelmed with information in the last decade of my life that it's hard to remember what I didn't know then.
Yeah.
Um, I do think that I had this idea in my mind that if you just lived a holy enough life, that everything was going to be perfect and fine, and that, you would never have any marital issues, you would never have any, crises, basically.
Mhm.
Almost like a prosperity gospel in a way, not in the sense of like you're going to have a lot of money, but just in the sense that if you follow God's plan, everything's going to work out.
Okay. So at this point, you're 19, you're in your courtship. Are you questioning your type of Christianity at this point, or that's later?
I think this is probably when the first little seeds of questions were planted because he had some different views than my family. And I didn't feel like he was living in rebellion against God. And so there was this sense of trying to reconcile like what my parents were telling me and teaching me versus how he lived his life, but I still thought he was a good Christian. And if I ended up marrying him, obviously I was going to have to submit myself to his way of living a Christian life.
Mhm.
So the seeds were starting to be planted then. But I wasn't fully like researching other denominations because he was still Baptist, like my family. So it wasn't a huge gap between, what we believed.
At this point, do you have free reign of the internet?
Yes. Yes. At this time, I was able to access like I had a smartphone by this
Hmm.
time. So I could access the internet without someone, looking over my shoulder.
Hmm. And did that make you nervous?
Having access to the internet?
Like, I guess, were you afraid of temptations? Were you afraid of seeing things you weren't supposed to see? Or were you just like thirsty for all of it?
Oh, I was very scared of seeing things I wasn't supposed to see.
Okay, okay. And, we talk about the Duggars a lot. And recently, in the time frame that we are filming this in, one of the Duggars, Joseph, was recently arrested, and there have been conversations that have come out with him and his wife, Kendra, and just, there's always drama to talk about with the Duggars. And something that came out recently was Michelle and I guess Jim Bob always give the kids, oh my god, I guess they're adults at this time, but always gives them like instructions on their first night, their first wedding night. Were your parents going to do that? Do you know?
I have no idea what their plan was if I had gotten married in that like 19 to 20 age range, because at that stage, they had never had any conversations with me about anything sex ed related.
So what did
Um,
you know about sex?
by that time, I knew a little bit more because I had done the research myself. But before the age of like 18, I knew nothing.
Mhm. That's just, it's so wild to me. And it's especially wild to think about, like, I know that your parents believe that they were doing the correct thing and that there wasn't malicious intent behind it. But just the thought that, like, they set you up with a 29-year-old man when you knew nothing, that's wild. And, like, so dangerous.
Yeah,
How does that sit with you now?
it's icky.
Yeah,
It's like, it's kind of tempting to feel like, what was I thinking? But then when I take a step back, I'm like, I didn't know. Like at that time, I
absolutely.
didn't know. And with all the issues that my parents eventually had with this guy, none of them were ever how old he was. None of them were ever the gap in our relative knowledge of the world or knowledge of sex or knowledge of relationships or anything like that. It was never about a power imbalance or anything like that. So it does just feel very gross to look back on.
Do your parents have an age gap?
No, they're pretty close. They're only 2 years apart.
I just can't imagine being okay with that. Like, yeah, that's one of the wildest parts. It's like your parents put you there.
Well, actually, you just brought back a memory. And at one time, shortly after I started courting this guy, my mom actually said, I always knew that you were going to end up with somebody a lot older than you.
Oh my god, what does that mean?
I think that in in context of conservative Christianity, I was viewed as a very mature
I was
child.
gonna say, is it because you didn't have a rebellious stage yet at that
Yeah.
point?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I was viewed as this very like grounded, level-headed, mature for my age, could carry on conversations with adults when I was a really little kid.
I bet that made you feel really good about yourself.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I always thought that I was, special.
Doing it right. Yeah, yeah, exactly. Wow. So, okay, so how does this courtship end?
It ends badly. Basically, I was put in a position where I had to choose between my family and him. And I
Daddy,
felt
I love it.
because my parents had all these issues coming up with him that they didn't like. And at the end of the day, really what they didn't like was that he was causing me to question them in some ways.
Hmm.
Um,
This sounds very Jim Bob.
yeah. And so at that time, I did not have enough independence. I don't know what the right word would be. I
Right.
didn't,
Are you living with your parents at this point?
yes.
Okay.
Yeah. I was a stay-at-home daughter. I did not think that I was supposed to move out
Oh
until
my
I got
God.
married.
Wow. So you didn't have a job.
No, I didn't have a job. I had no way of supporting myself, nothing. And so I had to choose between them and him. And I prayed about it, and it felt like my heart was being ripped out of my chest.
Oh.
But I ended up choosing to break up with him so that I could live what I felt like was what the Lord was calling me to do, which was obey my parents.
It's just so fascinating to break this down because it's something that like now you/we can like look back on and we can laugh and be like how silly it was, but also to a young 19, 20-year-old, a romantic at heart, because women are raised to be romantic and again, so young, like to romanticize getting married young and then also to romanticize doing the right thing or whatever in the name of God, doing the hard thing in the name of God, which is what you were doing. Like it's just so deep. Like the feelings about yourself, the feelings about this guy, the dynamic between your parents and this guy, and you should get a documentary. How does he take it? How does a guy take the breakup?
Badly. I've had no contact with him at all for years. So like I
Uh-huh.
don't know where he's at now or what he's doing or I don't know how he would look at it
I can
now
find
or
anyone
like
relatable.
10 years down the road. I don't know if he would look back at it and be like, yeah, that was dumb. I shouldn't have been dating somebody that
Yeah, because
young.
he's got to be almost 40 now.
Yeah. And so I don't know. I have no idea. I know that for a while, because we did talk briefly after the breakup, and it was kind of weird because he was kind of the one that initiated the conversation after the breakup, but then he was also the one that pulled back again because he said that I had like too much baggage. I think he said that bitterness didn't look good on me.
Oh my God.
Um,
Christian slander.
yeah, because like by the time we talked again, I had, it had been a little while, and so I had had some time to process what had happened, and I was getting into that stage where I was questioning my parents' beliefs and what I had been taught. And I guess he didn't like that. I don't know, which makes me feel a little, even a little ickier about the age gap because it makes
Hmm.
me feel like he didn't want me questioning things, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
So,
It feels like extremely groomy, like
yeah. And I'm very,
any 29-year-old man with a 19-year-old girl. Yeah.
I'm very glad that did not work out.
Yeah, yeah. I guess your parents got something almost right there.
Yeah.
I don't think I knew that you didn't have a job. I know, like, I would never expect or be shocked that a 19-year-old can't, like, support themselves financially, but I don't think I knew you didn't have a job. I know, because I know where you work now. I know you've also been a piano teacher. So, were you never going to have a job? Like, when you were 19, did you never envision having a job, or when did you start teaching piano in
I
this timeline?
actually I had started teaching piano by that stage, but we're
Hmm.
talking about like five people from
Sure.
church. No, we're not
Yeah.
talking about like
We're talking dinner money, yeah.
yeah, we're not talking about a job.
Yeah.
Like I might have enough money to put some gas in my car, that's about
Yeah.
it. So I had already started teaching piano, but the plan, what I thought was going to happen was that I was going to get married and my husband was going to support me while I
Right.
was, a stay-at-home homeschool wife and mom. Like that,
Yeah.
that was the plan.
And then you bought a house on your own, right?
Yes,
That was just you. That wasn't even your husband yet.
correct.
Yeah, so snaps for that because that's amazing.
Oh,
Good for
thank you.
you.
I do live in a very low cost of living area, so
Make it work for you, honey.
yeah.
Okay, so you're broken up now. You're 20 at this point? 21?
Yes, it was shortly before my 21st birthday, but yes, I was still 20 when we broke up.
Okay, so you're questioning things. You're questioning your type of Christianity still.
Mhm.
You're mad at your parents. You love the Lord. What's next?
So there was this one point about 6 weeks after the breakup happened that this really solidified my path toward deconstruction. About 6 weeks after we broke up, my grandmother passed away. And this was like the grandmother that I was most attached to. And so there was all of this heavy grief, obviously, that I was going through. But what really I feel like set me on the course to leaving Christianity was the way that my parents treated me regarding the breakup while I'm going through all of this grief with my grandmother. We were in this period of time between the breakup and when my grandmother passed away, and we knew that she was getting bad. Like, we were like calling family members, like, you need to come visit her, you need to come see her. We know that this is going to happen soon. And during this period of time, when we are fully expecting her to pass any time now, my dad literally sat me down one night and was like, this is not okay that you're this upset about this breakup. This is what the Lord wanted you to do. This is what your parents wanted you to do. So you should be happy about it.
Mm.
And we are going to sit down every night and go through this massive list of reasons that I have written down why you should be happy about it until you decide that you're happy about it.
Oh my God.
And it just felt so emotionally abusive in a
Uh-huh.
lot of ways because like you're not even allowing me time to process my grief before you just come like attack me for having this rebellious spirit because I'm not happy about something that would make anyone sad.
Yeah, because I'm
Like
human, literally.
yeah, regardless of the situation or even now that I'm really glad that relationship didn't work out, I still understand why a 20-year-old me was very sad about it.
Absolutely.
And so it just felt like there was no compassion or empathy for what I was going through. And I feel like that was, if I was not going to deconstruct before, that was what led to me deconstructing.
Little did your father know.
Yeah.
So you're grieving, you're really angry at this point.
Mhm.
You're also really, you're sad, you're grieving, and you recently had your big breakup. What are you doing with your faith? Are you researching? Are you praying? Are you meditating? What are you doing?
At this stage, in like the 1 to 2 years post breakup and post my grandmother passing away, I'm too overwhelmed emotionally, mental health wise to really think too much into it. And I'm basically leaning into my faith as hard as I can. I'm trying to rely on the Lord to get me through this really difficult time. And for a period of time that worked. But then when the natural healing process starts after the breakup, and as I start to come to terms with my grandmother being gone and all that, it's not enough anymore. And like I have to
Mm.
know, why is it that the Christians in my life are the least compassionate toward me? Why is it that this Christian world that I grew up in is providing me no support during this really difficult and challenging time?
Did you know anyone who wasn't Christian?
Of course, I had come across people who weren't Christian in my life. I had never been close to anybody that wasn't Christian. But in the wake of the breakup, I did pretty quickly realize that I was not going to be able to continue living with my parents because
Mm-hmm.
I knew that I was never going to be able to fully heal. And I knew that our relationship would be permanently damaged, like beyond repair, if I had to live with them every day.
Mm-hmm.
So I started trying to make a plan to kind of move out so that I could have some space to figure things out and heal.
Did they support that? Did they have?
Oh no,
Okay.
absolutely not.
Okay.
But part of that was obviously getting a job. And with, absolutely no experience and only a high school education, the only thing that I could get was a waitress. And I waitressed for quite a while. And in that line of work, you meet a lot of people that are different than you.
Mm-hmm.
And some of the people that were the least religious were some of the nicest people.
Mm-hmm.
And so that was really eye-opening for me, because I had been taught, that people who aren't our brand of Christianity, they're just, these godless heathens who have terrible lives and they're broken and they're, all these things, but they're just normal people who have full lives. They
Yeah.
have their own path, they have their own beliefs, they have their own humor, they have all the things that I have, just in a different way. And so that was really eye-opening for me to actually interact on a personal level with people who weren't raised with the same brand of Christianity that I was.
When do you move out?
It was about 2 years after the breakup.
Oh, that's a
Um,
long time. I mean, I get it. It takes a while to save up the money, but that's a long time
yeah,
having to
yeah,
stay
for
with your
sure.
parents.
Yeah. And I wasn't making enough money as a waitress to be able to move out. So I had to wait
Mhm.
until I could get another job that paid just a little bit more. And
Did
I
your
was,
parents support you getting a job?
no,
They were so like, what did they want you to do? Like, I guess keep meeting guys.
they either wanted me to get married and be a stay-at-home mom, or they wanted me to stay with them and take care of them as they got older. Those were the two paths.
And was that like explicitly told to you?
Yes, they told me that they would pay me to continue living with them.
Okay. Wow. Okay. So you're moved out now. You just moved out. Are your parents mad? At
Very.
this point, are they expecting like at this point you've been saving up? Are they did they know it was coming, I guess?
I mean, they knew it was coming, but they weren't happy about it.
Did they help you move out?
No.
Okay. Yeah.
No, when it came time,
Did
like when
anyone help you? Like did you have friends?
I
Period. I
didn't
guess like yeah, well, I don't think we've talked about this part. Who were your friends and what were your friends like? Were they all
I didn't
church
have
people?
I didn't have close friends at this point because my close friends growing up had been from church.
Mm-hmm.
And at this point, everybody at my church thinks that I'm like going off the deep end, like I'm losing my mind.
Oh,
I am becoming a heathen. I'm, rebelling against my parents. And so I'm really disconnected from my church community. And I haven't had time really to develop any kind of community or
right.
friendships outside
Oh,
of that.
yeah.
And so I'm really alone at this point of my life.
Yeah. So are
And
you questioning? Like, do you feel pretty strong in your resolution that you're meant to do something different? Or are you regularly questioning, am I doing this wrong? Should I go back to what I was doing before?
there was a lot of uncertainty and wondering if I was this rebellious heathen that I was being painted as in my church community. I do think I pretty quickly realized though that I didn't want to go back to that
Hmm.
and that I wouldn't be happy or fulfilled if I did. I think it's like the more freedom I gained, the more I realized how much freedom I had been missing and how good the freedom felt.
Hmm.
And so I would never want to go back to the lack of freedom.
How did it feel? Because I think, like, of course, we have to acknowledge, like, the insane amount of bravery it takes to step away from this and to step away from your community into the unknown, into, I mean, unknown period. Like, that is scary. You don't have a lot of money. You're losing family support, you losing friend support, you're losing the church community support in the name of freedom and in the name of this new path that you have found that you know right now feels good or feels like what you are called to do. But like, how does that feel? Like, at the time, could you acknowledge this is a brave thing to do? At the time, was it just scary? Was it just exciting? Was it liberating? Was it exhilarating? Was it just frightening? Like, how did it really feel in the moment?
I'm a very visual person, so I always have these images in my mind when I think
Yeah,
about
go
different
for it.
periods of my life. And that period of my life has always felt like I was at the bottom of a well with no rope, and I had to literally claw my way out from the bottom of the well until I could see daylight at the top. Like it
Yeah.
was incredibly overwhelming. It felt like it was never going to happen. And when I finally moved out, it was like I could breathe for the first time in years.
So I'm picturing with this well situation, like I'm picturing because the question, I guess the part thing is that like you could choose to stay in the well. You could choose to not like you don't know what's on at the top of the well. You can see there's a light, but you don't know what's in that light. Your everything you know. Actually, this kind of goes into like Plato's cave story, but we'll do that some other time. Everything you know is in this well. You see this light. You don't know it's there. You know it's you know it might be impossible to get to that light. So why do it? If you did, like, what motivated you to go towards that light?
I felt like I was going to drown if I didn't.
Uh-huh.
It truly
It
felt
was a
like,
little like do or die.
yeah, it felt like my only choice. Like, no matter how scary it was, no matter how hard it was, like, this is the only way I'm going to survive is
Mm.
if I do this.
And so you moved out, you've jumped out of the well, and it's a bright, cheery, warm world or whatever. And you're saying you felt free. What else? What else is going on at your life at this point? How else are you feeling, and what's next?
This period of my life is it's a lot of research. It's a lot of figuring out what I truly believe apart from my parents, apart from the church that I grew up in.
Are you at this point? Are you questioning Christianity, period, or still just the type of Christianity?
Still just the type of Christianity. And it's kind of a I feel like it was a period of time that I was kind of redefining my faith, but I wasn't leaving my faith.
Mm-hmm.
And I was becoming a lot more progressive in my Christianity, but I was still very Christian. I started going to a different church than the one that my parents went to. And it
Ooh.
was still like by my standards now, it's still an extremely conservative Christian church. But it was far more progressive in the sense that the women wore pants and most of the women worked outside the home and some of the kids went to public school.
So at this point, are you 23?
Yeah, kind of in that age range.
Okay.
And so even though that it's still a very conservative church, it's a lot different than what I grew up with. And so I felt like I was just exploring my faith for the first time on my own without the expectations or the influence of my parents and the beliefs that I grew up with.
What's the first snap in the maybe I'm not Christian?
That happened when the news broke about Josh Duggar.
Yes. The first time, the 2015, like the cheating one or the molesting one?
No, so the cheating one, that all kind of came out, and even the situation with him and what he did to his sisters when they were kids and stuff, that all kind of came out during that period of time when I was going through my whole courtship and breakup and my grandmother passed away and all that.
Mm-hmm.
So I was not real plugged into the outside world at that time. I was struggling so much myself.
Mm-hmm.
I was kind of unaware of all of that happening until several years later. So when I really started questioning Christianity as a whole was when the news came out that he had been arrested for possession of CSAM.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't immediately jump to, oh, that happened, so I'm not a Christian anymore. Like it
Right.
wasn't that direct, but I started following the case because I had followed them when I was a teenager. I really looked up to their family. And kind of as a result of that, I also found out about the other things that he had done, with the cheating scandal and everything else that had come out a few years before. And so I'm really kind of morbidly fascinated with it in the sense of like, how could somebody that I looked up to so much end up here, you
Mm-hmm.
know? And so I'm following the case really closely. And I'm watching all the YouTube videos and the commentary that people are doing on it. And one day this video popped up as a suggestion on YouTube because I had been watching a lot of videos about the case and the trial and all that. And I clicked on it just, looking for an update on the case as a whole. And the guy that was doing the video was starting to kind of steer the conversation into a commentary on conservative Christianity and how that could have contributed to, or at least kind of provided this perfect environment for a predator like Josh to flourish and to get away with his crimes for so long.
Mm-hmm.
And I found myself, kind of nodding along and agreeing with him. And then he said something else in the video that immediately made it clear that he was an atheist. And I didn't know that before. Like when I clicked on the video, I had no idea that the guy doing the video was an atheist. And I literally, when I realized that he was an atheist, it felt like my heart dropped into my stomach
Mm.
because I was like, I just agreed with an atheist.
Oh God. Who am I?
And so that like it seems like such a silly little thing now, but it really was the first time that I even acknowledged to myself the possibility that I didn't believe in Christianity anymore. And it was so terrifying that I immediately went through and like deleted all of my YouTube history and blocked his
Mhm.
channel. And like I didn't want to deal with it. I couldn't deal with it at that point.
Yeah.
I didn't want to see it. I didn't want to think about it. And so for a little while, I just kind of ignored it. I'm trying to think when the next time was that I really revisited that. I didn't fully allow myself to really explore it until I met my now husband. Because when we met and we started dating and we started having all of the conversations that you have when things start kind of getting serious, I realized I was going to have to figure out what I believed.
Yeah.
And come to find out, he had very similar questions and beliefs that I did, where he wasn't so sure that Christianity was, the one and only way.
Yeah.
And that just provided kind of a safe place and a person that I could talk to about it. Because up until this point, I really haven't talked to anybody about my
Right.
changing beliefs because it's just not acceptable. Like questioning things,
Did you
asking
talk to
why.
people online at all?
No, I watched a lot of YouTube videos and, read Reddit forums and stuff like that, but I didn't talk to anybody.
I think I struggle to like really put myself in your shoes and to really understand what that feels like. Because I can picture, like I said, because I didn't. We haven't talked before until today about like who were your friends. That just never came up, I guess. But to be slowly losing them and not have replacements lined up, like it again. Yes, the loneliness for sure, and then also yeah, not to have anyone to bounce these ideas off with or to talk about it. I really struggle to imagine what that feels like.
It was very isolating and overwhelming. And I think that's probably why I just immediately shut it down when that thought first
Yeah.
occurred to me, because it felt like too much to deal with completely alone. Like nobody in my family even knew that I was questioning the type of Christianity that we believed in, much less, here I am now agreeing with an atheist. Like that just
She's gone
it
off
was
the deep end, everyone.
it was too much. I couldn't deal with it.
So your husband, he wasn't raised Fundy Christian, right? And he went to public school.
He went to public
Stuff.
school and he was raised more what I would call mainstream Christian.
Hmm.
Um, and I mean, the region that we live in, most Christians are conservative Christians. So
Hmm.
his family, I would still call them conservative Christians, but on the spectrum, if you've got your progressive Christians and your conservative Christians, my family is down here and his family was like here.
Yeah. Okay.
So it was a lot more of an open-minded lifestyle that he grew up in. And his family also kind of ran into some personal issues with their church. And so they had kind of stopped attending church weekly when he was like a teenager. And so he had been out of church for quite some time by the time we met.
And you're like 24 now.
Yes.
What do your parents think of him? What do they think of dating? You're dating. You're not courting.
Oh, they do not approve.
So you're dating. You finally have someone to talk about with these things and to bounce ideas off of, and to just have these out loud reflections with another human. Then what?
It kind of gets to a point where I have to acknowledge to myself that I don't believe anymore. And I had been there deep down for a long time, and I just had not had the courage even to admit it to myself
Mm-hmm.
because it was such a big thing to let go of these very foundational beliefs. And it's very different to go from Christian to not Christian than it is going from conservative Christian to progressive Christian,
Yeah.
because like that's more of like an external, how do I relate to the world through my faith? But going from Christian to not Christian is like, okay, I'm saying that I don't know that an all-knowing, all-powerful God created the universe 6,000 years ago. Like that's a fundamental belief
It's a
that
huge part of your identity.
yeah, that shapes everything in my life. And so
Yeah.
to let go of that was such a big thing that it was like a whole event unto itself. And it was almost like an out-of-body experience when I first admitted it.
So at this point, you two aren't married yet, right?
No.
Did I know you said he was also questioning? So at that point, was he already like, I'm not Christian? Did one of you
Pretty
do it first?
much, pretty much. He he was okay. He was totally fine with me being Christian because he thought that I was when we first started dating. He knew my family and he was under the impression that I was still very conservative Christian too, and he was okay with that. But we kind of had a conversation one day where he sat me down and he was like, I need you to understand something. Like, we're starting to have feelings for each other, and this is kind of starting to get serious. And I need you to understand that I'm never going to be the person that goes to church with you every week because I don't really believe that the Christianity that we grew up with is the answer. And I think that Christianity is weaponized in a lot of ways. And I don't see myself supporting that. I don't I don't necessarily not believe in a God, but I'm just never going to be the person that goes to church every Sunday with you. So you like that's something you need to be aware of before we get any more serious with this because I know how important church is to you. And I was like, actually, now that you mention it,
Now that you say that, actually.
I don't really want to be in church every week either.
All right. So, something I've actually been wanting to ask this whole time, but I kind of wanted to wait until we got to this part of the conversation is as this is happening, because it's not really a spoiler alert, but a spoiler alert, you are now quite witchy. And
Mhm.
so at 24, what is your relationship with Jesus?
At that stage, that was really about the time that I started questioning Jesus, I think, because like up until that point, it was like, well, regardless of what else happens in life, regardless of, where I end up landing with my Christian faith, like I always have Jesus. Like I'm never gonna abandon Jesus. He is everything.
Mhm.
And it was really about that time, like 24-ish, that I started realizing that couldn't I couldn't separate Jesus from the faith that I had grown up with. It was too intertwined for me. And at some point in that general time frame, kind of stopped with praying and stopped with personal devotions, and I was losing kind of that last piece, I guess, that I had been hanging on to.
And so later I'm going to ask you how you look at Jesus now, today, but you're questioning things. How do you get from 24 to 29? Do you go right into pagan spiritualities? Do you experiment with anything else?
So I had actually been really drawn to like nature-based spirituality, witchcraft, that kind of thing, even before I wasn't a Christian. And
Ooh, I don't
I
think I
even
knew that.
remember when I was still a Christian, I remember thinking like, man, there's kind of a part of me that wishes Christianity wasn't true because I would totally be a witch.
I don't think I knew that. So what attracted you to it, or how did you even know about it? What did you know?
Just internet, just generally seeing things on the internet. I've always loved
And that
nature.
didn't scare you off the way an atheist did?
Well, I think that was more of like the time frame that I had that thought. I was still so Christian that I never actually thought that would happen. Like I never actually thought that I would become a witch. It was just like, oh, I see why people are attracted to that. Like it looks really cool. It's never going to be me though.
Sure, sure.
But the atheist, that realization that I was agreeing with an atheist and that I might not be a Christian anymore, that was a little bit further down the timeline where I had already started losing my faith.
Hmm.
And so it was more of a reality in the present moment. And I think that's why it was more terrifying.
Yeah. So
But
is witchcraft your first? Is that where you turn to next at 24, 25?
24, 25, I'm more going through a little bit of a like an agnostic atheist phase where I don't really know if anything exists. I'm really getting down to the foundational, like I'm learning about evolution for the first time
Oh,
at
wow.
this stage. I'm learning about
Did you know
um,
what evolution was? You just was
a,
told it wasn't real, or?
a very Christiany version, like very, what's the term? Like the straw man arguments. That was all I knew for
What's the
evolution.
straw man argument?
Just like the weakest version of what something could be,
Oh, oh, oh!
just
I
like
thought there was a
straw
straw man
man.
argument
Yeah.
related to evolution, specifically.
Yeah, just in general, like the most watered down version of evolution that's like the most easily refutable.
Listeners are going to have to tell us if that's another Southern saying. I don't think I've ever heard that.
You never heard straw man argument?
I don't think so. That doesn't sound the most Southern. Like that sounds like something maybe I should have known, but I don't think I've heard that one.
Yeah, I think I came across it when I was doing all the research into religion because people talk
Okay.
about like you can steel man an argument or you can straw man an argument.
Interesting.
Like you can either interact with ideas at their strongest or you can interact with them at their weakest. And I was presented with evolution like it's this ridiculous theory that somebody came up with just so that they could say there's no God.
Mhm.
And like that's in reality that's not actually what it is. And
Yeah,
there
yeah,
are Christians who accept that evolution is real,
yeah.
but that just wasn't what I was taught about it. And so I'm learning about all of these really foundational things for the very first time in my like early to mid 20s. I'm learning about the origins of the universe. I'm learning a lot of like science and history that I had never heard before.
Gotta be like mind blowing.
Yeah. And so I was kind of in this stage of I was so hungry to learn science that I was just not really interested in the religion for a little while. I didn't feel like it was necessary because I was learning all these things in other areas.
You're learning about science, and you two. Well, how long does that go on? How long do you spend in this science era?
Probably like 1 to 2 years, something like that.
All right. So, and you two, I mean, you got married at like 27, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So, because I think you got married like a little bit before we met.
hmm
So you're 26, 27. You're getting married. How do your parents feel about that? Because we're getting close to today. So,
Yeah, we eloped. We didn't have any family at our wedding, primarily because of the situation with my family.
Mhm.
Um, we were pretty much no contact for about 9 months, starting with our engagement because they did not approve. When they realized that they were not stopping it, they were like this was happening whether they wanted it to or not. We kind of started talking to them a little bit again, and we did end up having like a reception for friends and family when we got back from our elopement, and they did come to that. So that was kind of the beginning of us starting to repair our relationship with them a little bit. But leading up to the wedding, they did not approve.
What about your relationship with your sisters?
It's overall throughout my life, it's been better than my relationship with my parents. Um, I think with all siblings, there's periods of time where you're closer or not as close, and they're so much older than me. We've always been in such different places in our life that we haven't always connected on a really deep level. But like I was talking to my sisters through the period that I was no contact with my parents.
Mm-hmm. I know your next step is then witchcraft. So how do you get there?
So I think I got to a point when I kind of feel like the dust started settling around me finally realizing that I wasn't a Christian anymore
Yeah.
and doing all of this research in science and history and feeling like I'm filling in a lot of the gaps that were left by my Fundie Christian homeschool education.
It's really crazy to think about the timeline of this and how quick that all was. Like to go from the perfect Christian mature girl courting, broken up with, or you broke up with him. 2 years of trying to move out, still Christian, then just starting to question it, and then admitting it like this isn't for me, and then having to learn everything that wasn't taught to you in your homeschool curriculum. Like, this feels like kind of wrong to say, but to just reach like I don't know how I want to say this. Um, to reach a different standard, I guess. Like how quick that all had to happen, and how much like time and energy that must have taken up. But how not long ago that was. Like that was relatively recent.
Yeah.
It's so wild to me because it sounds like telling these stories. I mean, we're not even that old, but it feels like we're talking about something that was 20 years ago. But we're talking about something that was in the 2020s.
Yeah.
It's wild.
It is. It's really overwhelming to think about it in the big picture. A
Mhm.
lot has happened to me in the last decade.
Yeah. And I think the other thing that's crazy too is I only know this version of you that to the point that like to think that that was you not that long ago is wild.
Oh yeah, yeah. Like even probably 7 years ago, me would not recognize current me.
Yeah.
I'm a completely different person than I was then.
Yeah. It would be crazy to watch a conversation with your past self. So you're going into witchcraft. How does that happen?
Yeah, so as everything is kind of settling into a new normal, now that I'm not, like, I know within myself that I'm not a Christian anymore, I do kind of start to miss some of the ritual aspects of Christianity, like the daily devotions and the prayer and different things like that. And so I kind of start thinking about ways that I can bring that back without the toxic aspects of Christianity. And I just feel like there's no way that I can ever go back to being a Christian because for one thing, there's too many bad memories associated with it, too much heaviness. And I feel like I can never disconnect that from my experience growing up and through my late teen, early 20 years. But I don't know really where to go. And then I realized, I've always been kind of attracted to nature. I love being outside. And I even remember at one time being kind of attracted to witchcraft. So I kind of just started researching it a little bit, looking online, listening to podcasts, reading a few books. And I did that for a couple of years, probably. I would say about 2 years of just personal kind of looking into it and researching it and starting to develop my own practice a little bit. And then that was how I discovered Elise and how I ended up meeting all of you and meeting my what's now my coven.
Yeah, so I know you did one of Elise Wells's, I don't know how possessive that. Elise Wells, her one of her containers, her first one, Witch Codes. I guess so that was that your very first public thing? I mean, it's private, but like thing with other people, I guess, is what I mean.
Yeah, that was my very first like group thing where there were other people involved in, the kind of the religious or spiritual practice that I was doing, which was also really scary.
Yeah, how did
Because
that feel?
at that point, I don't think I was ready to call myself a witch at that point, just
Hmm.
because there was so much.
What's crazy is we can go back and watch the videos of those meetings.
Yeah. So I don't think I would have called myself a witch at that point. I was more like, oh, I'm spiritual, I guess, or something like that. Just I connect with nature and I'm spiritual, and so this seems like something that could, be a good class or container for me to do. But that was the beginning of me really starting to almost do another deconstruction of like my beliefs about what witchcraft was and, you know,
Yeah.
kind of a new understanding of it and realizing that, what, I think I am a witch. Like I identify with those values and the practices and I think that that is the spirituality that I've been, working toward through the last few years.
Gosh, a lot has happened in the. I guess it's just been a year and a half, or yeah, just like a year and a half, right? Since then, the first witch codes. That
Yeah.
was, I think that was November 2024.
Yeah.
So a year and a half. You've done three containers now, right? Three
Hmm.
containers. You've traveled to Greece. You've
Hmm.
joined a coven. You travel to Maryland every like 6-ish weeks.
Yeah.
So where are you today with your spirituality? Yeah, what is most important to you? What are you most interested in right now, too?
Most important to me is respect and connection with nature and the earth. I'm still working through my belief and relationship with deity.
Hmm.
It's really hard for me to separate the deity work from the God of the Bible
Hmm.
because I had this very clear-cut picture of what I thought God was. And so trying to disconnect that from my current spiritual and religious practice is a work in progress. But just kind of living more in communion with the cycles of nature and, using my spiritual practice to work for, what's the word I'm looking for? But yeah, just like,
Using it for your own good, I guess.
yeah, and connecting with nature and using that kind of to connect more deeply with my highest self and
Hmm.
what I was put here, if you want to use that term, put here, what I arrived here on this earth to do.
What would you say to 18-year-old you now?
Wow.
I know that's a big question.
I would probably say you are not going to believe the next 10 years of your
I'm
life.
gonna blow your mind. Solid. Oh, I did because I wanted to follow up. So this kind of goes with your feelings of deity as well. But like, what is your relationship with Jesus now, and how do you see Jesus? Do you believe Jesus was a figment of your imagination? Do you believe that Jesus is a deity? What do you think?
I think Right now, I probably view Jesus more as a historical figure who I respect his teachings and what he was trying to do in his time. And I think in that way, I can connect with him on a spiritual level, but I definitely don't view him as a deity. And I don't really incorporate him into my spiritual practice. I think just because there is a lot of baggage around that,
Mhm.
and so for me, I don't think that it feels right, at least not right now, to connect with him spiritually in any way. But I mean, I'm open to it in the future if I ever feel feel called to do that.
And so what is next for you? What are you doing now? I guess like we'll have to do a part 2 in 10 years, but I'm kind of thinking like what does age 29 to 39 look like?
That's a really big question.
Sure is.
Honestly, over the last few years, because there has been so much radical change in my life, I don't really have 5 and 10 year plans anymore.
Yeah, yeah, that makes sense.
I'm kind of just going with the flow and seeing where life takes me. I have some, thoughts and plans on what I would like to happen in the future, but a lot of it is just more learning to live in the present and enjoying where I'm at right now versus trying to direct my life in a certain way for a long period of time because that clearly doesn't work for me because I didn't think I was going to be here. So, one little thought, seed of an idea that I have had recently is I am thinking about starting a podcast.
Yes.
Going more in depth on specific topics about the journey from Christianity to witchcraft and what that's looked like in my life and how it's changed more like specific, nuanced beliefs and topics as I've gone through that journey. So, yeah, stay tuned for the development of that.
Yeah, that is so exciting. And I think too, like, obviously you are not alone in this. There are lots of people who have deconstructed and lots of people that will continue to do that. But as you were doing it, as you know, you felt so isolated and you were like alone in your town. And so I think it feels very Christian-y to say this, but that's like such a service you would be providing. Like that's something that is
Ministry.
ministry. That is something for his glory. That is something that I think would really provide a lot of good. And so I'm excited. Do you want to drop the title?
I think we can. I think
Yay, do it.
I'm pretty set on it. So the name for the podcast that I've come up with is Healing Through Witchcraft.
Yay! I'm so excited.
Because I do feel like my journey to witchcraft has healed so much in me.
Hmm.
And I think it's healed me in a way that's been unique that I wouldn't have found the healing in any other path. Like I
Yeah.
think this was for me, this was the thing that I needed to heal from a lot of the things. And it's an ongoing journey. Of course, I'll be
Yeah.
healing to my life from some things, but kind of like you were talking about how much has happened and how fast it's all happened.
Hmm.
I think that's because of the specific spiritual path that I'm on now, because of witchcraft, that I've been able to have this really rapid progression and a lot of change in my life.
Yeah, and it's a very interesting story that you have because I mean you've been interviewed on like 3 podcasts now, 4 podcasts.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, so it's something that a lot of people want to hear, and I think it's really awesome.
And I always go back to, during that time that I was deconstructing, I found plenty of resources about deconstructing from Christianity, but virtually all of them were from people who ended up atheist.
Yeah,
And while I do still have kind of a complicated relationship with deity, and I don't really even know if I believe in a literal, I don't know if physical is the right term, but like a literal being that is a God that's like directing our path or something. I I didn't find any resources when I was going through it that that would have helped me get here. It was almost like I had to cobble together different things. I had the deconstruction resources from people who ended up atheist, and then I had the witchcraft resources from people who didn't really talk about their spiritual past. I'm sure at least some of them started out as Christian, but that wasn't really the focus of their
Yeah.
podcast or their book. And so, yeah, I hope that
It's gonna be so interesting.
I hope in producing this podcast, I am able to provide just at least some like relatability for people who are on a similar path
Yeah.
where, maybe they're leaving Christianity or they're questioning Christianity, but they don't know what's next, and just kind of providing a perspective on how witchcraft has helped me get where I am.
That was a great elevator pitch. Okay, so Catherine, we end every episode with a quick little game. Now, this started when I was making up this game. It started as a Would You Rather that turned into What Would You Do Duggars edition. So we'll start with the couple Would You Rathers that I made up before the Duggar questions. So we have Would you rather have your chart read for the year ahead or have a year ahead tarot spread? Oh, that rhymed.
Ooh. I think I would rather have my chart read.
Yes.
Yeah, it feels a little more like I love tarot and oracle. Like I love working
Mhm.
with cards. I do almost every day, but it's definitely a lot more like open to interpretation.
Mhm.
And I know astrology can be too, but it's a little more like scientific in a way, I guess. So I think
Yeah.
I would prefer the astrology reading.
Would you rather do a full blown ritual in a public park in your hometown or
Immediately no.
or commit to going to church every single day for a year with your family?
Oh gosh.
Every single day.
Oh, every single day. Um, at this point, honestly, I would probably rather go to church every
Yeah,
single.
I thought you'd pick that.
Yeah.
Because even we've talked a little bit like it doesn't always feel bad going to church. Like you can still feel
Yeah.
good sometimes.
Yeah, sometimes.
Okay, that was all I had before the Duggar questions. Okay. I don't know if I care to give context to these or not. Would you rather talk to Anna or Kendra right now?
Oh gosh. Anna.
I think I would rather talk to Anna, but I feel like I shouldn't say this, but I feel like she's almost like she's too far gone. But maybe Kendra is too. I don't know.
I think I so desperately want to understand the psychology.
Yeah.
Like I would love to talk to Anna if I knew that she was actually gonna talk, and be
Yeah.
honest.
That's the thing. Yeah, you don't know. Would you rather marry a Duggar or have been raised by a Duggar?
We should call this Would You Rather Worst Edition.
Yeah. You have to pick one.
I guess probably raised by them because
Yeah, they had some money.
at least you have a path out.
Yeah. Yeah.
If you're very into it, it's like you're stuck with it forever.
Yeah. Okay, you're hosting a dinner with 3 Duggars. Which Duggars do you pick and what do you cook for them?
Well, I would have to make tater tot casserole, right?
I know.
Probably Jill.
Hmm.
Um, she probably has the most similar trajectory, and I know she's still like conservative Christian and all that, but
She's got a nose ring though.
yeah. She's probably the most similar to me, so it would be really interesting to talk to her.
Hmm.
Um, I would love to talk to Jana
Hmm.
because she had a very different kind of life path than the rest of them because she got married so much older than most
Hmm.
of them.
Had her first kid older too, yeah.
Yeah, she had her first kid older, and
And
as
she's
one
the
of
oldest the
yeah,
oldest sister
as
for
one of
anyone who
the
doesn't
older
know, yeah.
siblings, she has more of a perspective on like the whole Duggar universe.
I'm so curious what her courtship looked like. I don't even know if they called it courting at that point. I'm pretty sure they kissed before marriage. And I'm gonna assume that that's all they did, but I'm so curious.
Mhm.
Oh, and who's your third Duggar at this
Oh,
dinner?
um, all the other ones that I can think of are just like I feel like it would put such a damper on everything. Like there's a part of me that kind of would be intrigued by a sit down dinner with Michelle, but at
Hmm.
the same time, like I feel like I would be so nervous around her.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Maybe one of the younger kids, like to get a varying perspective of like the older and
Yeah,
younger.
because we don't know a lot about them
Like,
anymore
yeah,
since they're not on TV
yeah.
and they're too young for social media accounts.
Hmm.
I think I would pick Jessa. I think
Hmm.
her and I could have a really good debate. Um, Probably Jill. And like Jana is a good one. I don't think I'd pick Ginger, but she's like if I had four or five, I'd pick. Maybe Joanna. Joanna is the one who's okay. I'm closest in age to Jedediah and Jeremiah, but I'm in between Jedediah and Jeremiah and Joanna, so I'd probably pick her because we're like the same age.
Yeah, right before you said that, I was like, oh, I think I would probably pick Joanna
Yeah,
because she seems like she would be pretty easy to talk to,
yeah,
know, and maybe a
yeah. Because
little.
she's like the girl who stayed the tomboy, I guess.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Last one. You can ask one Duggar any question you want. Which Duggar, what question? And they have to answer. They have to answer fully and honestly.
Let's see. There's so many. So many Duggars and so many questions.
I know.
I don't know. I hate to say this one because it almost feels like we're kind of wrapping up on a negative note, but
That's okay. We have an outro after this.
honestly, like it feels really heavy, but I would want to talk to Michelle and ask her why? Like, why didn't you protect your daughters? You know, why would you want to cover for your son rather than getting him help?
Yeah.
Just why did you think that all of that was a good idea?
Yeah. I don't know. I thought about Jim Bob because like, I think I know the answer to this, but I genuinely want to know, like, does he really believe all of this? Or is it. I do believe he definitely started out believing all of it, and I think in the end, I do think he still believes all this. I guess I would want to know from either of them, maybe. Like, I would want to ask them, where do you think you went wrong? And like I'd want to know, like, do they think they did any wrong? Because I think they mostly blame it on like the media and other people's perception, other people blowing it up out of proportion, or blaming the victim and that kind of thing, but not like their parenting or even blaming Josh for like not being a good enough Christian or something. Like just blame everyone else. So I'd want to know, like, do they really do that? I have so many questions for Anna. I will
Mhm.
say, since those emails that we've gotten, I think some of those questions have been answered.
Yeah.
Because I definitely thought, like, you can see in those emails from when Josh was in jail about, like, how tricked she's been. And I know I thought, like, I always thought, like, there's no way she really does, like, there's no way she believes he's innocent. I don't know why she's doing this, but she just must be so Christian that she truly believes even if he's guilty, she can't leave him, and she's dependent on the Duggars for money. But after those emails, like, no, she truly believes that he's innocent. But that's not a question for her. I feel like I know that now.
Mhm.
So yeah, I'll leave. That's my question for Jim Bob. Where does he think he went wrong?
Yeah.
Well, that was a really good conversation, Catherine. How do you feel after all of that?
I feel really good. I always feel like it's therapeutic to talk about it and
Yeah. I'm glad. I know I said this earlier in the episode too, and I know we've talked about it, but I feel like I've always been a little bit nervous. Like, I would never want you to think like you're just like a science experiment to me, but it is like you are such an interesting case study, and you do have such an interesting story that a lot of people are going to find fascinating, and then there's a lot of other people that are going to relate to you, whether exactly your kind of story or just bits and pieces of it. So thanks for
yeah.
telling it.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Whether you're just beginning your journey with astrology, starting to utilize it as a tool in your craft, or are just curious about the universe, we are so happy that you are here to join us today. And if you have any comments or questions, we love hearing from you and are loving this process of building a community of astrology students. Everything we do is linked in the show notes. We hope you enjoyed this episode as much as we did talking about it. Next time, I think our episode will be our deep dive into Cancer. If I'm right, we shall see. This podcast is my practice of asking big questions, uncovering the hidden truths, and creating an accessible space for others to do the same. Thank you so much for being a part of this, and we'll see you back in the study room every other Tuesday.